By August, the garden goes wild. As I've observed for the last few seasons, August is when things explode and take over. And this year is no different, although things are either exploding, like this nasturtium, or dying off, like a few things I'll show you later. Over here, the marigolds have taken over the eggplants. However, they're still existing well together. I think the marigolds are really working to get rid of the flea beetles on the eggplants. And I do have a couple small eggplants forming. Rabbits ate down the okra that was growing here, although there's one struggling in the corner. There's another huge nasturtium. The cucumbers that were vining up this trellis are sort of petering out, although the one in the corner over here has started to grow up the stalk of the sunflower. My zucchini that were in here have been taken over, so no zucchini this year. Cucamelons got a slow start. I'm not sure what I'll get from those this year. I see one little baby. Over here are where the Kajari melons are. We've got a couple growing. The biggest ones are over here. Well, this one's got some damage on it. And this guy down here, but they're not turning orange yet, so they've got a while to go. And there's little baby melons all over, so hopefully I'll get a couple this year. Sunflowers are being eaten by the birds, which is great. Over here, the tomatoes, which have struggled all year, aren't doing so hot. Here we go. The tomatoes are forming really small. I'm not sure why. These tomatoes, these two, 1, 2, they're indigo apple, and they never really grew tall. So this one's only a couple feet tall. This one's maybe 3 feet tall. That's pretty short compared to the cherry tomatoes that did make it to the top of the cattle panel, but usually they're taller and flopping over. The peppers are back in here. There's a couple pepper plants, but they got shaded out by the sunflowers pretty good, so I think this is a bell pepper, but it's pretty small, so I have a little bit more time, but the nights are getting really cold. Amish paste tomatoes, again, not the tallest that I've had. A couple tomatoes left there. Rabbits had eaten back the artichoke, and it is growing back, but they're not going to produce, and they'll die over the winter. And all of the onions are gone. So there's a few things still growing in the main garden. Over here in the strawberry towers, the strawberries are setting out lots of runners, so I'll have to cut those off and pot them up soon. My volunteer sunflowers are doing great. Aren't supposed to grow here, but that's fine. This other tower is a different variety, throwing off runners, but not as many as the other ones. These are the Honeoy. The other ones are Annapolis, so I think going forward I might just stick with Annapolis, but we'll see. Moving on to the greenhouse garden. We'll start up here at the front. Rose bush is doing well. Another big nasturtium in the corner here. Lots of zinnias, milkweed, the butterfly milkweed. Made some pods. This really tall dill is drying out. I collected some seeds from that already. More zinnias. When it warms up a little bit, there'll be lots of bees and butterflies and other bugs buzzing around. My little baby asparagus, not doing so great because I should have planted it in the ground, but this was more of an experiment to see how they would do. The black and white garden, where I've planned to plant only black and white flowers, is doing okay. These are a little smaller than I had hoped they would get this year, and the hollyhocks died back, but a couple extra seeds sprouted. And this is moonflower, which I'm sure it's gonna die back over the winter, and for how late in the year it is, I'm not impressed with how slow they've grown. I really thought they would cover this whole trellis by now. Coming around to the tadpole aquarium, there's a couple little babies left, but most of them have hopped on. I see a lot of them in the garden. I just have this covered so that the rainwater doesn't flood them out and the sun doesn't bake them, but they've been doing well. Only a couple left. They should be hopping off soon. Columnar apple tree is doing okay. First year I've had them, so they're just kind of there. These are Roma tomatoes, which are doing great in containers. Amish paste, again, doing great in the containers, much bigger and much more productive than the ones I have in the garden. The pumpkin, squash, green beans, corn patch is getting 1 overrun with pumpkins, 2 overrun by squash bugs, and 3 overrun by weeds. So there's a lot of bees and wasps and bugs buzzing around, so I don't get in here as much as I'd like to clean it up, but it is what it is. There is orange pumpkin growing back there, a little one here. Lots of pumpkins, actually. I'm surprised at how many are growing. The green beans, I got a decent harvest from, but because of the pumpkins, I couldn't get in there very well. The corn. I live in Indiana. There's tons of corn everywhere and it's cheap at the stores. So I really shouldn't have wasted my time. I didn't get anything. I might get Halloween decorations from the corn. My peach tree is doing great. Nice and growing. I'll need to trim it up eventually. For this first year I figured I'd just let it do what it wants to do. The blueberries, I ended up buying 2 more on clearance, so I have a couple more than I anticipated, but they're all doing well in the pots, and probably within another couple of weeks I'll add some acidifier and fertilizer to the pots so that they're good to go for the winter. My black and white hanging baskets I took down because they were dripping all over my rose bushes, and I just didn't want to deal with that. And that's what the garden looks like in August.